Imagine needing to use the bathroom 30,000 years ago. There were no toilets waiting inside a nearby home. There were no pipes carrying human waste underground either. So where did prehistoric humans actually go? The answer begins with the simplest place imaginable. They usually walked away from where everyone else lived. A quiet patch of land could become their temporary bathroom, but they could not simply choose any place. Some locations were dangerously close to sleeping areas. Others were far too close to drinking water. That made choosing the right place surprisingly important. So what made one location safer than another? Distance from camp was one important factor. Fresh water was another concern they could not ignore. Nobody wanted waste contaminating the water everyone depended upon. Animals could also become interested in human waste. That created another reason to leave sleeping areas. But prehistoric humans faced another problem they couldn't see. Invisible organisms could survive inside human waste for days. And somehow, humans still had to keep their camps livable. Finding a private place was only the beginning. The chosen spot needed to be far from sleeping areas. It also needed enough distance from important food supplies. But what happened when the entire group needed privacy? They could not all use the same place. Repeated waste could gradually make an area unpleasant, so people likely spread their activities across different locations. Natural vegetation could also provide some privacy. Tall grass and bushes offered simple cover from others, but privacy was not their only concern. The ground itself could reveal whether a place was suitable. Wet soil could create problems after repeated use. Dry ground was usually easier to leave behind. Some places also offered better protection from insects. Yet one mistake could affect everyone around them. Waste left too close could eventually attract unwanted visitors. That meant distance became an important part of survival. But there was one location humans needed, especially far away. And choosing the wrong direction could become dangerously costly. Because the most important rule involved something everyone needed every day. The safest place was rarely the closest place. Human waste needed distance from where people slept. It also needed distance from where food was prepared. But water mattered more than almost anything else. A nearby stream could provide drinking water every day. The same stream could also carry dangerous contamination downstream. That made rivers surprisingly important when choosing a toilet spot. People needed water nearby, but waste needed distance. This created a strange problem for every settlement. How could humans stay close to water safely? The answer depended partly on the landscape around them. A hillside could separate waste from flowing water naturally. Dry ground could also reduce problems after repeated use. But low ground created another danger during heavy rain. Rainwater could carry waste toward places people depended upon. That made some seemingly convenient locations surprisingly dangerous. Humans did not understand germs, but consequences were visible. Sickness could spread through contaminated food or water. And once several people became sick, everyone noticed. But what exactly was hiding inside that invisible danger? Water could keep a community alive, but also spread disease. Every settlement needed reliable access to clean drinking water. But waste could easily reach nearby water sources. Rain could wash human waste across the surrounding ground. Eventually, that contaminated water could enter streams and rivers. People drinking downstream might never know what happened upstream. They could become sick without understanding why. Yet prehistoric humans had no knowledge of microorganisms. They could only observe what happened after contamination. Some places repeatedly produced sickness after heavy rainfall. Other areas remained safer, despite being used frequently. Over generations, those differences could become valuable knowledge. People learned where water was safest to collect. They also learned where waste should stay far away. This knowledge did not require understanding bacteria. It only required noticing patterns repeated over time. A dangerous place could become avoided without anyone knowing why. A safer place could become part of daily routine. But contaminated water was not the only hidden danger. Something much smaller could survive inside the waste itself. Human waste could contain organisms invisible to prehistoric eyes. Some could survive outside the human body for surprisingly long periods. People could encounter them through contaminated water, food, or soil. But nobody could see the danger approaching. A clear stream could look perfectly safe. Clean-looking food could still carry microscopic threats. Even soil near a settlement could become contaminated. This made human waste more dangerous than it appeared. Yet illness did not always appear immediately afterward. Someone could become sick days after the original exposure. That made the real cause difficult to recognize. Without microscopes, people could only connect events through experience. Certain places might become associated with repeated sickness. Certain seasons could also bring more frequent illness. Heavy rain could make these patterns even stronger. Waste moved farther when water flowed across the ground. That meant one careless location could affect many people. But humans faced another threat hiding around their camps. It was smaller than any predator they feared. And sometimes, it could be carried by something that flew. Human waste could attract insects searching for food. Flies could land on waste and carry microorganisms elsewhere. They could later land on food prepared nearby. This created another invisible path between waste and humans. Other insects could also become attracted to exposed waste. Mosquitoes created a completely different kind of danger. Ticks and fleas could also live around human settlements. Some parasites could spread through contaminated soil around camps. But prehistoric people could not see these organisms directly. They could only notice their effects on the body. Itching, stomach problems, and weakness could follow exposure. Yet not every illness came from human waste. Wild animals also carried parasites and infectious organisms. That made prehistoric environments difficult to keep completely clean. Still, moving waste away reduced some unnecessary risks. Keeping sleeping areas clean could also discourage insects. But humans still needed something after finishing their business. Without toilet paper, what could they possibly use? The answer depended heavily on what nature provided nearby. And some surprisingly ordinary materials became part of daily hygiene. Without toilet paper, humans needed other ways to clean themselves. The materials available depended on the environment around them. Soft leaves could become a practical cleaning material. Grass could also be used when available. Some communities may have used moss or other plants. Water could provide another simple method for cleaning. In some environments, smooth stones were also useful. But not every material was safe or comfortable. Sharp edges could cause painful injuries. Certain plants could irritate sensitive skin. So people likely learned through repeated experience. Useful materials became familiar parts of everyday life. Knowledge about them could spread within communities. Children could learn simply by watching older people. But cleaning was only one part of staying healthy. The real challenge was keeping waste away afterward. That became harder when settlements remained in one place. A temporary camp could simply move somewhere else. A permanent settlement could not keep moving forever. And that changed everything about human waste. Eventually, some human groups began staying in one place longer. Permanent settlements created problems temporary camps rarely experienced. Waste began accumulating instead of disappearing with each migration. More people also meant more waste in smaller areas. The ground around homes could become increasingly contaminated. That made choosing a toilet area even more important. People needed places far enough from their living spaces. They also needed reliable access to clean water. And the safest locations were not always nearby. Some communities may have used separate areas for waste. Natural barriers could help keep those areas away. Vegetation, slopes, and distance could all provide separation. But population growth made simple separation increasingly difficult. A small settlement could tolerate occasional waste nearby. A crowded village could not tolerate the same conditions. Waste management slowly became a community problem. One person's mistake could affect everyone living nearby. That created pressure for better ways of controlling waste. Eventually, people began putting waste somewhere deliberately. And that simple idea would change human sanitation forever. Once people settled permanently, waste could no longer simply disappear. Some communities began placing waste into specific areas. Others dug pits beneath or near their settlements. These pits kept waste concentrated in one location. That made surrounding living areas easier to keep clean. But digging a pit created another important question. How far should it be from drinking water? A poorly chosen pit could contaminate nearby groundwater. Rain could also carry waste into surrounding soil. So location remained just as important as containment. Some ancient settlements show evidence of organized waste disposal. These discoveries reveal increasingly complex approaches to sanitation. But a waste pit was still far from a toilet. People still needed somewhere to sit or squat. They also needed privacy while using the facility. As settlements grew, these needs became increasingly important. Eventually, simple waste pits began evolving into dedicated spaces. And some of those spaces were surprisingly sophisticated. But what was the oldest true toilet humans ever built? The answer takes us into the earliest cities. The first cities created a completely different sanitation problem. Thousands of people could no longer simply move away. Waste had to be managed inside crowded settlements. Some ancient cities developed dedicated spaces for human waste. These early toilets were surprisingly simple. Some used pits connected to drainage systems. Others placed waste into specially designed underground spaces. The goal was always keeping waste away from people. But removing waste created another challenge. Where could all that waste eventually go? Some systems used water to carry waste away. Others relied on gravity and carefully built drains. This required much more planning than simple waste pits. Engineers had to understand slopes, water, and drainage. Ancient cities were beginning to think about sanitation differently. Toilets were no longer just private places. They had become part of how entire communities functioned. But clean-looking streets did not guarantee healthy lives. Even advanced sanitation systems had serious weaknesses, and some ancient toilets reveal just how clever humans became. Ancient toilets solved one problem, but created another. Waste still needed somewhere to go after leaving homes. If drains failed, waste could return into living spaces. Flooding could make the problem even worse. Contaminated water could spread through crowded communities quickly. But ancient people could not see the organisms responsible. They could only notice sickness appearing around them. Some communities eventually recognized connections between dirty water and illness. Others likely learned through painful repeated experience. Keeping waste away from drinking water became increasingly important. That principle remains central to sanitation today. But ancient sanitation was never equally advanced everywhere. Some cities built impressive drainage systems. Others continued relying on simple pits and open areas. Different environments created different sanitation solutions. Dry climates offered different possibilities from rainy regions. Crowded cities faced different problems from scattered villages. Still, one goal remained surprisingly consistent. Human waste needed to stay away from human mouths. And achieving that changed the future of human settlements. As cities grew, simple waste pits became increasingly difficult to manage. More people meant more waste produced every single day. That waste could quickly overwhelm small disposal areas. Cities needed systems capable of handling growing populations. Some communities improved drainage around homes and public spaces. Others developed toilets connected to larger waste channels. These systems separated human waste from everyday living areas. But moving waste away did not make it disappear. Someone still had to deal with what remained. Waste could collect outside cities or inside underground systems. Some places relied on pits that required regular emptying. Others used flowing water to carry waste farther away. But water could also spread contamination beyond the city. That created a difficult balance between removal and pollution. The better cities became at moving waste, the farther it traveled. Yet sanitation was slowly becoming part of urban planning. Toilets, drains, and water systems began working together. This was a major change from prehistoric camps. Human waste was no longer just an individual problem. It had become a problem shared by entire cities. Better sanitation slowly changed how people lived together. Clean water became increasingly important for growing communities. Waste needed to stay away from drinking sources. That simple rule could protect entire populations. But ancient people still lacked modern scientific knowledge. They did not understand bacteria or microscopic parasites. Yet they could observe patterns of sickness. Repeated outbreaks could reveal dangerous places and habits. Communities gradually learned which water sources seemed safer. They also learned where waste should remain. Some sanitation practices became part of daily routines. Others developed through religious or cultural traditions. Cleanliness could become connected with social expectations. Private toilet spaces also became increasingly important. People no longer needed to disappear into nature. They could use spaces designed specifically for human waste. That changed the meaning of privacy itself. Going to the bathroom became an ordinary daily activity. Something once done anywhere became carefully separated. But modern toilets were still thousands of years away. Modern toilets did not appear overnight. They developed through thousands of small improvements. Better drainage made waste easier to remove. Cleaner water reduced some dangers from human waste. Cities slowly developed more organized sanitation systems. But most people still lived without modern toilets. For centuries, waste disposal remained surprisingly primitive. Then cities began growing faster than ever before. Crowded streets made old sanitation methods increasingly dangerous. Waste could accumulate dangerously close to homes. Dirty water could spread illness through crowded neighborhoods. People eventually began demanding cleaner urban environments. Engineers started building larger sewer systems. Toilets could finally connect to underground drainage networks. Human waste could disappear without remaining beside homes. Clean water could flow separately from dangerous waste. This created the foundation of modern urban sanitation. But one final problem remained: understanding why people became sick. Without that knowledge, even advanced toilets had limits. Then science finally revealed what prehistoric humans could never see. Today, using a toilet feels completely ordinary. You sit down, flush, and immediately forget about it. The waste disappears somewhere beneath your feet. You rarely wonder where it goes afterward. But thousands of years ago, nothing disappeared so easily. Every human body produced waste that needed somewhere to go. For prehistoric people, that meant making careful choices. They had no pipes, sewers, or flushing water. They simply had nature, experience, and observation. Over generations, those choices slowly became survival knowledge. Then, permanent settlements made waste increasingly difficult to ignore. Villages grew, populations increased, and sanitation became essential. Eventually, humans built systems to separate waste from water. That simple separation changed the future of cities. Modern sanitation would eventually save countless lives, yet its beginnings were surprisingly humble. Someone simply needed somewhere safe to go. That tiny problem eventually helped reshape human civilization. And today, billions use toilets without thinking twice. Perhaps that is why the toilet's history remains so invisible.